Remember in chapter 1, Moses said farewell and died. In the book of Joshua, Joshua has taken over as the new leader. With God's help, God's people began to take over their promised land. The first city they conquered was called Jericho. The priests blew their trumpets and the walls came crashing down. Next, Patrick encountered more new leaders. These men and women are called judges. First he met Deborah, then Gideon, and finally Samson. Samson didn't always follow God. He had promised God that he would never allow his hair to be cut. Therefore, God gave Samson super strength. Unfortunately, Samson broke his promise and allowed his hair to be cut off, and God took away his super strength. Samson's enemies captured him and threw him in jail. In the end, God gave Samson back his super strength. Samson used this to pull down a great building and to destroy his enemies. In the next book, Patrick met a woman named Ruth. She loved her mother-in-law and took good care of her after both of their husbands died. She worked in the fields to pick food for them. Because of her faithfulness, God blessed her with a new husband and a son. In 1 and 2 Samuel, God gave the people leaders called kings. The first king was named Saul. He had an evil heart. Next there was King David. He made some awful mistakes, but he had a good heart and wanted to follow what God said. In 1 and 2 Kings, Patrick met a third king. His name was Solomon. He was King David's son. Solomon started his reign as a wise and good king. But then he began to worship idols. He was now a double-minded king with a huge headache. When Patrick arrived in 1 and 2 Chronicles, the people were once again slaves and discouraged like they were back in the book in Exodus. God encouraged them. He reminded them of how faithful he had been in the past, how he gave Adam a wife named Eve, and gave Abraham a son named Isaac, and how he blessed Ruth with a husband and a son. Patrick was encouraged as well. He thought about what God had taught him in chapter 2. Even when God's wonderful plan looks difficult, we can trust God to help us. We can trust God to help us when we don't want to do our chores, when we don't understand our homework, and when we don't want to be nice to our sister. How about you? What hard things can you trust God for in your life? See you in chapter 3.